Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 7 Part 1 based on novel. So let's start. Majestic yuan power rippled in the sky, accompanied by an endless pressure as it spread. Under this pressure, everyone on the mountaintop felt the yuan power within their bodies begin to show signs of solidifying, immediately causing shock to arise in their hearts. As expected of the super sect experts, just their pressure alone was already so powerful. Wu Dao and Liu Tong faced each other in the sky, dark and cold look in their eyes. One could faintly see murderous desire surface within their eyes. It was very difficult to imagine that these two had joined forces to fight the experts from the Western Xian region not long ago. Now, however, they showed signs that they were about to meet on the battlefield. Lin Dong was also a little stunned when he saw this scene. Clearly, he also did not expect that the two of them would turn against each other so quickly. Moreover, it was obvious from their expressions that they would not hold back at all. Looks like there is something amiss between the Yuan Gate and the Dao sect, Lin Dong softly muttered. If that fellow from back then was allowed to grow smoothly, he would definitely be a giant-like existence now. Such a loss was truly like cutting off the flesh of the Dao sect. Do you think that kind of genius with both unparalleled talent and character was so easy to find? Lin Dong nodded slightly. He did not know much about that legendary ruthless senior from Dao sect. Therefore, he was unaware of just how powerful this person would be now if he was allowed to live. However, from little Martin's words, he could vaguely understand a little. After all, there were not many people who could get little Martin, this proud fellow, to say such words. Why did that senior charge up to the Yuan Gate? Why did the chief of the Dao sect sit back and let him be killed by the Yuan Gate? Lin Dong could not help but ask. I am also not very certain about what happened back then. After all, it was a matter that occurred in the Eastern Xian region. However, even if the chief of the Dao sect was to intervene, it was likely impossible to rescue that fellow. It was not without reason that the Yuan Gate could become the strongest super sect within the Eastern Xian region. Otherwise, my celestial demon Martin tribe would have long charged over and killed all of them. Little Martin laughed coldly. Lin Dong fondled his chin. He had merely came from a low-rank empire and he only possessed some vague perception about those super sects that had only existed in the legends in the past. Hence, he was truly unable to tell just how strong they were. When Lin Dong was softly conversing with little Martin, the atmosphere in the mid-air also became increasingly tense. However, just when the aura of the two rose to the peak, the experts from the remaining super sects at the side finally opened their mouths. You two, now is the time to select disciples. The both of you are also considered as elders within your own sects. Doing such an impulsive thing will give these disciples a bad impression. The one who spoke first was the pretty lady from the Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace. Her eyebrows were slightly vertical. She appeared quite elegant. Ha ha, that's right. It is not good for the both of you to fight here. Since Lin Dong has chosen to join the Dao sect, we will naturally allow him to follow his desire. Saying anything else will only make us seem too narrow-minded. That old man, who was carrying a sword case on his back, also laughed faintly. The remaining experts from the super sects at the side also nodded upon hearing this, indicating their agreement. A deep expression flashed in the depth of Liu Tong's eyes when he saw this. He was aware that the other super sects were upset over the fact that their Yuan Gate had monopolized the past few hundred Empire War champions. Now that it was possible for them not to allow the Yuan Gate to become the greatest beneficiary from this 100 Empire War, all of these fellows were happy to quietly add insult to injury. Humph. Although Liu Tong felt displeased within his heart, he also understood that it was impossible to alter the situation. All he could do was to let out a cold snort. He swung his sleeve and withdrew the majestic Yuan power into his body. After which, he stared at Wu Dao in a dark and cold manner. He said, "Forget it. It is difficult for your Dao sect to stand out. We shall give in to you this time around. However, I'm afraid that you will teach your disciples wrongly and end up ruining their future. There is no need for you to worry about it." Wu Dao spoke in a faint voice. Hey, you should wait until the next great sect competition before uttering those words. I'm afraid that you will end up losing quite a number of young Dao sect geniuses at that time. Liu Tong laughed. Wu Dao's expression immediately sunk when he heard this. The Great Sect competition was a place where the various super sects in the Eastern Xian region used actual battle to train their disciples. The Dao sect was specifically targeted by the Yuan Gate during these years. Quite a number of talented striking disciples were attacked viciously by the young experts from the Yuan Gate during the Great Sect competition. This had ended up resulting in quite a great loss for the Dao sect. Liu Tong looked at Wu Dao's dark and sunken expression. Only then did his heart feel a little better. He waved his sleeves and coldly said, "All right, let's not talk nonsense. Hurry up and choose the disciples." Wu Dao ruthlessly stared at Liu Tong. After which, he turned his eyes away. His gaze looked towards the mountain top and he spoke in a deep voice, "Those present who are willing to join my Dao sect should release their aura. Those who are not willing only need to keep their aura in their bodies." Some commotion was emitted on the mountain top after Wu Dao's voice sounded. Soon after waves of auras surged out. Only a minority kept their auras. No matter how one put it, the Dao sect could also be considered one of the better-ranked super sect within the Eastern Xian region. Hence, it was quite a good opportunity to join them. Wu Dao looked at this scene before his expression became a little warmer. After which, he shook his sleeves. A large curtain of light appeared. Finally, they transformed into numerous light pillars that covered some of the stronger human figures on the mountaintop one after another. Lin Dong watched Wu Dao, who was beginning to select disciples. He mused for a moment before suddenly looking at Mo Ling, Liu Bai, and the others. He asked, "Are all of you willing to join the Dao sect?" Mo Ling and the rest were startled upon hearing this. They immediately spoke in a somewhat embarrassed manner, "We are not considered top-notch in this place. Even if we wish to join the Dao sect, it will depend on whether the other party is willing to accept us." Dao sect was also one of the 8 super sects. Why would they not want to join them? However, they were after all not Lin Dong and were not able to choose. All they could do was to wait for those experts from the super sects to select them. Lin Dong smiled. He was going to head to the super sect next. That place was a foreign land and it was boring for him to go alone. If he could bring Mo Ling, Liu Bai, and the rest along, they could be considered a team. It was always good to have more people no matter where one went. Moreover, he and Mo Ling trio came from the Great Yang Empire and they had managed to fight all the way to this place with much difficulty. Naturally, he did not wish to see them fail to be selected. Additionally, if he could bring the 3 of them into the Dao sect and word of it was to be transmitted back to the Great Yang Empire, it was likely that the royal family of the Great Yang Empire and the others should know how to repay this favor. Swoosh swoosh. Just when Lin Dong was preparing to speak to Wu Dao, a light pillar from the sky had already fell, covering Mo Ling, Liu Bai, Yang Sen, Mu Hongling and the rest within it. This old fellow. The corner of Lin Dong's mouth was lifted into a smile when he saw this scene. It seemed that this old Wu Dao was constantly focusing on him. This old man was interesting. From the looks of it, he was clearly thinking of repaying some of Lin Dong's debt from before. Mo Ling and the rest also had excited faces. Their eyes were filled with gratitude when they looked at Lin Dong. All of them understood that if it was not because of Lin Dong, it would be quite difficult for them to join the Dao sect given their talent. I also want to join the Dao sect. Standing beside him, Zuru was a little anxious when she saw this scene. The young lady was unable to control her emotions. She immediately raised her hand and her big eyes looked at Wu Dao. That innocent manner caused quite a number of people to smile when looking at her. Wu Dao involuntarily laughed softly upon seeing this. He waved his sleeves and a light pillar headed towards Suruo. However, the light pillar had just shot out when it was suddenly shattered by a Yuan power. "Ha ha, Wu Dao, leave this little girl to my 9-heaven supreme purity palace. She should be a little better off coming to my place. I wonder if you can do this favor for my 9-heaven supreme purity palace." That pretty woman from the Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace stepped forward and spoke with a somewhat embarrassed face. Su-Ru had caught her attention since the beginning. She was a little unable to control herself now that she saw this girl being about to be selected by Wu Dao. That was why she suddenly intervened. Wu Dao was also startled. He hesitated as he looked towards Lin Dong. "I want to go to the Dao sect." Su-Ruo's pretty face became a little anxious as she cried after seeing this scene. The pretty woman's figure moved and directly appeared in front of Su-Ru. After which, she extended her hand and touched the latter's face while adopting a gentle expression. She smiled slightly and softly said, "Little girl, it is a good thing to chase after your lover. However, at times, pestering the other party too much will cause him to feel irritated. You are currently too weak. If you come to my Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace, you will definitely be able to become strong very quickly. Only then will you be able to capture a man's heart when you meet him in the future." Swoosh! Su-Ru was merely a young girl who had yet to experience the world. How could she resist such words from this beautiful woman? Immediately, her face turned fiery hot. Her small hands forcefully entangled together. Clearly, she was at a huge loss. Standing beside her, Lin Dong did not hear what the pretty woman had said. However, he was happy that Su-Ru was so highly valued by this expert from the Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace. Of course, he did not overdo it by saying anything else. He would still respect Su-Ru's final decision. The words from the pretty woman in front of her earlier had clearly left a strong impression on her heart. After she hesitated for a long while with a boiling red face, she finally made up her mind and nodded. She timidly asked, "If I join the Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace, will my big brother be able to do so too?" Sukue, who was standing beside Su-Ru, involuntarily rubbed his head in embarrassment when he heard Su-Ru's words. Of course. A joy flashed across the pretty eyes of the beautiful woman when she saw Su-Ru nodding as she immediately agreed to her request. Sukue's talent might not have caught her eye, but she was willing to overlook it in order to recruit Su-Ruo. "Big brother Lin Dong, I will not be following you to the Dao sect. I will go to the Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace." Su-Ruo turned her head before she summoned her courage and told Lin Dong. You should make your own decision. We will not be beside you when you train at that place. Therefore, you cannot act like before." Lin Dong smiled slightly. He extended his hand, rubbed Su-Ru's head and said, "Understood." Su-Ru's big eyes became a little red because of Lin Dong's words. Her eyes were filled with reluctance. Although she had experienced many dangerous battles after following Lin Dong's group and she would be occasionally scolded by little Martin, she was able to sense that everyone was treating her sincerely. The interior of the super sect is not as peaceful as you imagined. You should change that timid character of yours in the future. Do not come crying to us when the time comes. No one will bother about you. Little Martin still had that lazy manner that could anger a person to death. However, only a person familiar with him would be able to discover a little gentleness on his handsome demon-like face. Su-Ru was clearly already used to this kind of impolite speech from little Martin. Moreover, she was also able to sense a kind of concern from it. She immediately nodded solemnly at his words. While they were chatting, Wu Dao in the sky had already finished his selection. Being the first sect which could select disciples, he had clearly gained a great benefit. Hence, his old face was filled with smiles. After he had completed his selection, the remaining 7 super sect experts finally began their selection. Light pillars immediately covered the sky. They were just like numerous light pillars that divided these geniuses from various empires on the mountain. Lin Dong could not resist smiling as he looked at the mountaintop which was covered by an excited atmosphere. He stretched his lazy waist and turned his head. His gaze leaped past the core region and looked towards the distant area that could not be reached. 1 year ago, those few people that had come from a low-rank empire had stumbled and charged into this ancient battlefield, where numerous experts gathered. At that time, they were the lowest existence in this battlefield. It was likely that even Lin Dong at that time was unable to imagine that he would ultimately surpass those geniuses that had come from the super empires and become the most dazzling existence in this 100-empire war. A smile was lifted on the corner of Lin Dong's mouth. He could already imagine just what kind of great storm it would cause in the Great Yang Empire when this news was transmitted back there. Curtains of light covered the 100-empire mountain top. Nearly everyone who could make it to the mountain top had a heaven-grade Nirvana seal, and most of them were fairly talented. Therefore, with the exception of a few individuals, most of them would be selected by the super sects. However, they would only become disciples after entering the super sects. If they wanted to improve and become direct disciples, they would still have to work rather hard. At this stage, the 100-empire war had officially concluded. However, this domain would remain open for a period of time. During this period, the super sects would continue to monitor this place. If there were other stellar performers, they would be accepted by the super sects. Of course, the disciples that were taken in during the second round would have a second marked in front of their names, and their status would be lower than ordinary disciples. Even though they were only branch disciples, it was still extremely desirable for most. After all, the super sects were extremely stringent. As the disciples were distributed, the 100-empire war officially came to an end. Lin Dong stood to one side, and a sea of black bobbed heads gathered behind him. All of them to him with a respect and admiration. All of them were now disciples of Dao sect, and Lin Dong's status would definitely exceed them. Hence, regardless of what empire they came from, they no longer dared to act arrogantly in front of him. Now that the 100-empire war has ended, all of you will follow me to the Dao sect. News of what has happened here will swiftly spread back to your own respective empires. Meanwhile, the rewards from the Dao sect will soon be delivered to your empires. Wu Dao stared at that crowd before he stroked his beard and spoke. Wu Dao's words obviously caused grateful expressions to surface on many faces. All of them represented their empires to take part in the 100-empire war. Now that they had finally succeeded, when they thought of the joy that this news would bring to their own empires, all of them were overjoyed. There were countless empires in the Eastern Xian region, and many new empires were destroyed and created daily. Therefore, one way to judge the strength of an empire was by the number of members who had joined a super sect. Even though the super sects would not intervene in the wars between the empires, the disciples who had joined the super sects would be naturally unwilling to see their own empires be destroyed. Therefore, once their empires are in danger, those disciples would naturally come to their aid. Of course, it would be fine if those disciples merely held an ordinary status in the super sects. However, if those disciples were truly valued by their super sect would not ignore their plight as well. As such, their super sect would likely intervene as well. It was precisely because of this reason that the empires in the Eastern Xian region tried desperately to send members to the super sect in hopes of gaining their protection and ensure the longevity of their empires. Buzz buzz. After Wu Du spoke, his hand seals instantly changed. Majestic Yuan power quickly gathered in front of him before directly transforming into a giant formation a moment later. Brilliant rays of light swirled across his formation. All of the super sects had constructed a space imprint in the ancient battlefield, and they could activate it at will to send members back to their own sects. Lin Dong watched as the now complete formation as he involuntarily took in a deep breath. Was it finally time to go? Let's go. Regret lingered in his heart for a moment, before Lin Dong took the first step into the formation without any hesitation. Soon after, Little Martin, Little Flame and the rest quickly followed behind him. After the last individual stepped into the formation, the dazzling light began to flow. Lin Dong lifted his head and took one last peek at this domain. In the end, a trace of anticipation flowed deep within his eyes. Eastern Xian region, Super Sect San. Ling Qingzhu. Lin Dong, am coming. Dazzling light exploded in the skies. When it reached its peak, it suddenly vanished, and as the light vanished, it took that crowd along as well. 1 year of hard work. The 100-empire war had finally ended. Great Yang Empire, Imperial City. The smell of incense lingered across the quiet yet majestic imperial study, causing one to feel invigorated. In the middle of the study, a muscular figure was quietly browsing through the various documents on his desk. A faint yet powerful aura was emitted from his body. The fearsome tiger of the imperial family, Mo Jingtian, and the current ruler of the Great Yang Empire. After a year, his aura was clearly stronger than before. Bang! The serene study room was suddenly disrupted by an extremely piercing noise of the door opening. Mo Jingtian's face instantly darkened. He lifted his head and was just about to erupt in rage when a faint yet sharp voice was transmitted into his ears. "Your Majesty, the 100 Empire War is over." Swoosh! The rage on Mo Jingtian's face instantly disappeared together with his originally gloomy expression. He suddenly stood up, his voice a little shaky due to anxiety. "What about Mo Ling?" "Your Majesty, the third prince has been accepted by Dao sect, one of the 8 great super sects." The man was overjoyed as he replied in a trembling tone. "Dao sect?" Even a man like Mo Jingtian could not help but involuntarily suck in a breath of cold air as he stood in shock. There were many super sects in Eastern Xian region. However, he knew of the 8 strongest ones. He had originally thought that it would be great if Mo Ling could enter any of the super sects. However, Mo Ling was actually chosen by one of the 8 great super sects, the Dao sect. That was one of the largest factions in the entire Eastern Xian region. How is this possible? Mo Jingtian was so shocked that it took him a moment to recover. Promptly, he muttered to himself. He was clearly aware of the cruel nature of the 100 Empire War. In fact, there was no one who had accomplished such a feat ever since the founding of his Great Yang Empire. "Your Majesty, not only did the third prince join the Dao sect, even Diyun, Man Shan, and the rest have joined Dao sect." This sensational news stunned Mo Jingtian so greatly that he fell back into his seat. There was actually 3 members that had been selected by the Dao sect. Did that not mean that their Great Yang Empire now had 3 super sect members? How is this possible? Waves of disbelief continuously struck Mo Jingtian's heart. He stared at the messenger, his hand continuously toying with a jade ball, as he muttered to himself. "It is all because of Lin Dong." The messenger's face was still filled with an almost maniacal joy. Obviously, this was the most shocking news that he had received in his life. Lin Dong? That Lin Dong from the Lin clan. Mo Jingtian was startled as he said. He was crowned as the champion of this 100 Empire War and the Dao sect highly values him. That is why they decided to accept the third prince and the rest. Boom! That rare jade stone in Mo Jingtian's hand was instantly turned to dust. However, he had no time to feel any regret about it. As he stared in shock at the man in front of him, a single word continuously filled his mind. 100 Empire War. Champion? Mo Jingtian's palm gently trembled as he tugged his sleeves. At this moment, his pupils had unknowingly shrunk. He clearly knew what this title represented. This title represented the most capable younger generation member in the entire Eastern Xian region. In the past, such an individual typically came from super empire. Low-rank empires like them were basically treated as cannon fodder in the 100 Empire War. In fact, even surviving was a challenge. To contend for the championship spot would merely bring disgrace to themselves. However, a youth from their Great Yang Empire had stood out in the 100 Empire War and now stood at its peak. The shock caused by this news made Mo Jingtian unable to breathe. "Are you certain?" Mo Jingtian opened his dry mouth as he asked in a coarse voice. "Your Majesty, this is the Yuan spirit message sent by Dao sect." The man quickly took out a golden glowing ball. Within the golden glowing ball was a golden piece of paper. Mo Jingtian quickly received it. The imposing aura given off by the glowing globe caused the Yuan power in his body to solidify. He knew that his news was genuine. That kid, Mo Jingtian pursed his lips as an image of the scrawny young man from 1 year ago flashed past in his mind. At that time, he would not even have dreamt that Lin Dong would accomplish such a feat. Looks like it was a good move to ask Mo Ling and the rest to follow Lin Dong. A truly terrifying fellow has emerged from the Lin clan, Mo Jingtian solemnly sighed. There was an unconcealed envy within his words. "Your Majesty, there has been quite a few skirmishes recently between the Lin clan and the Wang clan. Send word to the Wang clan, from this day on, the Lin clan is now the leader of the 4 great clans. If they do not know how to behave themselves, Mo Jingtian's eyes narrowed as a trace of killing intent slowly emerged. Yes. The messenger's heart was shocked. Looks like the Wang clan was truly unfortunate this time. In fact, was there anyone in the Great Yang Empire who would dare to oppose the Lin clan in future? Your Majesty, the Yuan spirit message should have also been sent to the Lin clan and the other factions in the empire. Mo Jingtian slowly nodded his head. He knew that from this day on, the Lin clan would become the most powerful faction in the empire. In fact, even their imperial family would not dare to do anything to them. Because the Lin clan had produced a Lin Dong. Great Yang Province, Lin City. As the hometown of the Lin clan, Lin City was always fairly crowded, and its size also placed it amongst the top cities in the empire. From a distance away, it looked impressive and majestic. At the center of Lin City, the clan meeting hall, which was usually reserved for special occasions, was currently filled with a massive crowd. All kinds of noises gathered together, the resulting buzzing noise making one feel as if one was in a beehive. All the Lin clan elders were present at the middle of the meeting hall, and at this very moment all of their attention was directed towards the chief's seat. A man was seated at that spot. An absent-minded look currently filled his usually fearsome face. Clan leader. As the most senior elder in the clan, Lin Mu could not help but cough gently as he watched Lin Fan's expression. Half an hour ago, Lin Fan had issued the highest command in the clan and summoned all the elders back to their headquarters. One should know that this command had only ever been issued twice ever since the founding of the Lin clan. Furthermore, both times concerned the survival of the Lin clan, and this time was likely no exception. When their thoughts reached this point, the elders' expressions faintly changed. Had something monumental happened? Lin Mu's soft cough awoke the dazed Lin Fan. His eyes slowly swept across the hall, as the noise instantly died down. Ha ha. Soon after Lin Fan's eyes swept across the hall, he suddenly started laughing mysteriously. As he lifted his head, his laughter grew louder and louder until even tears started trickling out of his eyes. Every elder and senior member in the hall was petrified till their faces turned pale. Just what kind of huge incident had occurred to actually shock the clan leader to such an extent? At one side of the hall, Lin Kua, who was wearing a white dress, turned pale when she saw Lin Fan's actions. Her jade-like hands involuntarily gripped tightly onto her father's arm. Clan leader, is this because of some nefarious plot by the Wang clan? Rest assured, clan leader, regardless of their tactics, our Lin clan is not so easily bullied. Lin Mu spoke out in a low voice. If the Wang clan dares to declare war on us, our Lin clan will battle them till the death. Another elder sternly shouted. Right? In the meeting hall, the crowds were angered until the atmosphere turned boiling hot. Lin Fan's laughter gradually subsided. He wiped his face and promptly waved his hands, before he spoke in a somewhat coarsely voice, "Elders, you do not worry. In the future, the Wang clan will no longer dare to display even the tiniest bit of disrespect to our Lin clan." Huh? The elders who were originally planning to fight to the death were instantly stunned. All of them were confused as they turned toward Lin Fan. The 100 Empire War is over, Lin Fan softly said. 100 Empire War. All the elders were once again shocked. Promptly, they recovered their senses as joy filled their faces. Was someone from our Lin clan selected by a super sect? Lin Fan slowly nodded his head. Crash! The atmosphere in the meeting hall instantly erupted while exuberant cheers poured forth and swamped every corner of the hall. It must be Lin Langtian. I'm afraid he is the only one who can do so in our Lin clan. That may not be the case. Lin Dong is not weak and even Lin Langtian can't handle him. I think that Lin Langtian has a better chance. After all, his talents have been acknowledged by everyone here. Yes. He is indeed the most outstanding talent in our Lin clan. Heh, that branch family kid merely got lucky. Once news of this gets out, they will probably lose their final backing. In the corner of the hall, Lin Kua gently bit her red lips and secretly sighed in her heart when she saw the exploding atmosphere in the hall. Did Lin Dong lose to Lin Langtian in the end? He has joined one of the 8 great super sects in Eastern Xian region, the Dao sect. Lin Fan's mumbling voice slowly spread, suppressing the din in the hall. One of the 8 great super sects, the Dao sect? Everyone's eyes instantly widened. Such an existence was simply beyond their imagination. In this 100 Empire War, he surpassed the talents from the various empires and took the champion spot. The large hall turned completely silent and everyone felt a little breathless. The champion of the 100 Empire War? Ever since the founding of Great Yang Empire, no one had ever accomplished such a feat, right? To think that someone from their Lin clan had actually done it. Lin Fan lifted his head. A trace of blood in his eyes as he stared at everyone present, his soft voice still trembling as he announced, "It's Lin Dong." Crack! Several chairs instantly exploded in the meeting hall as several people fell on their butts to the ground. However, no one took notice of them as they stared in disbelief at Lin Fan. The person who had been selected by one of the 8 great super sects, the Dao sect, the one who surpassed the geniuses of the various empires and towered over the rest. Lin Dong? The branch family member from Yang City, Lin Dong. Lin Kuo's jade-like hand was covered her red lips in surprise. The shock in her heart almost made her faint. She never imagined that the one to create such miracles would actually be Lin Dong. Lin Kuo was dazed as she reminisced about the incident that had occurred in the old tomb outside Yang City. The scrawny young man covered in bloody wounds, who stubbornly continued to struggle under Lin Langtian's pressure. In a few years, the injured young wolf had undergone a metamorphosis and was now an eagle that soared through the skies. Clan leader, is this true? Lin Mu opened his mouth and spoke, before realizing that his voice was a little coarse. He had placed Lin Dong in rather high regards. However, even he had never expected that Lin Dong could actually accomplish such a feat in the 100 Empire War. A place where numerous geniuses from everywhere gathered together. Lin Fan slowly nodded his head. Promptly, he placed both of his palms on a table to push himself up. As he stared at the crowd, his solemn voice filled with an authoritative tone slowly sounded out. Immediately inform the Yang City branch family that Lin Zhentian is appointed as the supreme elder of Lin clan. Lin Xiao, Lin Ken, Lin Mang and the rest will all be invited in to become elders. If anyone dares to badmouth the Yang City branch family in future. Lin Fan suddenly stopped, as a shocking killing intent surged onto his face. Will be immediately banished from the clan. Regardless of his status. The entire hall turned silent immediately. As everyone gazed at Lin Fan's solemn expression, all of elders who were prejudiced against the Yang City branch family immediately shut their mouths. All of them clearly knew that the Yang City branch family would become the most powerful and untouchable existence in the entire Lin clan, and maybe even the entire Great Yang Empire. All of this was because Lin Dong came from the Yang City branch family. The Yang City branch family of the Lin clan had produced a 100 Empire War champion. This news quickly swept across the entire empire like a hurricane. Every part of the empire was completely stunned by this news. Any faction who knew a little about the 100 Empire War was completely shocked by this news. It was shocking beyond imagination. None of them could imagine how a branch family kid from a low-rank empire was able to accomplish such a feat that not even the geniuses from the various super empires could pull off. However, reality had been laid bare in front of them and all they could do was bitterly grit their teeth and curse in a slightly envious tone. That monster. Yang City. This city was now clearly the most happening place in the entire Great Yang Empire. For several days, their Lin family had been completely flooded by various congratulatory messages. Every faction, even those with whom they were not acquainted with, showed up to congratulate them. This caused a massive headache for the Lin family. In the mountains situated behind the Lin family, Lin Xiao squatted in front of a bamboo house within a bamboo forest. There were several wooden poles nearby. This was the place where Lin Dong had trained at back then. Lin Xiao's rough and large hands caressed the wooden stakes that were filled with cracks, as if he could still see the scrawny figure that used to train here back then. You have been here for one entire day. Aren't you tired? Footsteps sounded out behind Lin Xiao, before a large coat was gently placed over the latter's back. "How are father and the rest?" Lin Xiao turned around and looked at Liu Yang, before he asked with a smile. Ever since father heard the news, he has yet to close his mouth. Liu Yang gently smiled and replied, "Dong'er is truly outstanding. Even more outstanding than his old man," Lin Xiao sighed. However, the pride and contentment on his face could not be concealed. Dong'er must have suffered tremendously during the 100 Empire War. Liu Yang was somewhat upset as she spoke. She was not like Lin Xiao and the rest, who only saw Lin Dong's accomplishments. As his mother, she was clearly aware that based on Lin Dong's stubborn character, he must have suffered tremendously in that place. He is a man. His shoulders are meant to carry heavy burdens. Dong'er is tremendously talented and the small Great Yang Empire is not enough to contain him. As his father, I am really proud to have a son like him. Ha ha. Lin Xiao laughed heartily. It is all because of you. Not only is Dong'er like this, even that last Qingtan is the same. A girl should stay at home, how dare she secretly run off? As if she had remembered something, Liu Yang's eyes were red as she spoke angrily. If something happens to Qingtan, I want to see if you can live with yourself for the rest of your life. Ha ha, that lass can't let go of Dong'er and she wants to chase after him. There is no helping it. Furthermore, the elder following her is extremely powerful and must have an extraordinary background. With her protection, Qingtan should be fine. Lin Xiao laughed as he said. As for the argument that you had with that lass, after her brother knows, she will have to face the consequences. Ha ha. Liu Yang softly sighed. There was no point in discussing such matters at this time. As she recalled how that normally obedient lass actually argued with her over this matter, she felt suffocated in her heart. Don't worry, the younger generation will do all right on their own. Lin Xiao smiled as he hugged Liu Yang. Promptly, he lifted his head and stared at the distant sky before muttering to himself, Dong'er, since you want to explore, go out and explore the world. A man should do so. However, it doesn't matter how famous you become, if you are tired, you can always return home. Father may not be as accomplished as you, but I will make sure that you will never suffer when I am around. This video will end here.